Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah, you're good at this. See, you don't need to have kids to know what to do. We're going to talk to a woman here.
His daughter is having a little bit of a fight at her school.
This is out of California, Fallbrook. Mary Kate Durkee is a 16-year-old high school sophomore, and she will not recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
How about that?
And it's become a big deal, so the ACLU has gotten involved. There's a lawsuit that has been filed. The school and the ACLU and Mary Kate have come up with a temporary solution.
Because we're only 2 weeks away from graduation, they wanted to put this aside for now. The solution for now is to have her remain seated quietly during the pledge. But, however, when she comes back to school in September, because she is just 16, so she's got at least another year left. Looks like another couple of years.
2 years.
She will have to stand or leave the classroom if she won't participate, and the family's not happy with that.
Family's not happy. ACLU is not happy. We've got Ann Durkee. I think it's how you say it.
I think it's
the mom.
Oh, is it?
Ann, how do you say Durkee or Durkee?
Durkee.
Durkee, okay. Ann Durkee, the mom of Mary Kate. And we have Dale Kelly Bankhead, Public Affairs for the ACLU in San Diego. Dale.
Hi.
How are you?
Great.
Why? Let me ask Ann first. Ann, why won't your daughter recite the Pledge of Allegiance? What's the big deal here?
She doesn't feel comfortable with the words in the pledge. She doesn't believe that the country has justice for all. She no longer believes in God. And she feels that to stand up and recite the words would be hypocritical on her part.
How did all this come about? Did she just get these feelings about the country, or has this been building?
Apparently it's been building. She's been talking to me about it over the past few months, and on April 1st of this year, it came to a head, and she just decided she couldn't say it anymore.
And she doesn't believe there's justice for everyone in America?
That's correct.
Who does she think is not getting justice?
She sees on the high-profile cases blasted all over the news of people with tons of money and high-powered lawyers and
OJ probably didn't help, huh?
Well, legal maneuverings, and then she sees other people that have to accept maybe less than perfect plea bargains that they don't have enough money to pay for a big lawyer. And
I'm with her on that.
Yeah, it's nice that she really follows the civil stuff.
And the God part, what's the...
She no longer believes in God. She did at one time in her life. Currently, she does not.
What changed her mind on God, then?
I believe exploring more in science, and now that she's working with proving things, and she wants to see the proof.
So just within the last few months, she stopped reciting the pledge. This just began?
Well, she started thinking about all these things, and then on April 1st of this year, she stopped reciting the pledge.
Why do you have to recite the Pledge of Allegiance anyway?
You don't.
You know, I never said it out loud.
You didn't?
No. I always kept my mouth shut.
It's one of those things like the Star Spangled Banner that the words were kind of weird to me.
I never said it out loud. I never sang the Star Spangled Banner at a baseball game.
No?
No.
Did you at least stand up?
I'd stand up, but I just wouldn't do anything.
Take off your hat?
I don't wear hats. Dale Kelly Bankhead, you're with the ACLU.
That's right. Hi.
Hi.
This is downright un-American, Dale.
That's right. It certainly is. If you're talking about what the school has done to Mary Kate.
Let's talk about what they've done for now. They're going to let her sit quietly.
Well, and that's a good temporary solution that allows everybody to go about their business and keeps us out of court on the short-term basis so that the full case can be aired over the summer, hopefully before school starts in the fall. So that's very good. Unfortunately, the school district hasn't seen fit to extend that solution long-term, which is really what we are seeking.
Well, you can't compel somebody to speak.
That's correct. You cannot.
That's basic.
But the school
but they're not.
I'm sorry, what?
Well, they're not. They're saying she'll have to stand, I guess, but not recite it or leave the classroom.
Well, standing is a form of symbolic speech. Exactly.
Oh, I see.
Exactly. And, in fact, if you think about the Pledge of Allegiance, the standing is an integral part of the whole ceremony. You stand up, you put your hand over your heart, you say the words. And so by standing, they're forcing her to engage in that symbolic speech. Their other option that they've offered is that she leave the room and stand out in the hall while the other students say the pledge. And
that's kind of exclusive, yeah.
That's a straight-out punishment. It kind of conjures up the idea of a student in the corner with a dunce cap on their head. I mean, it is just an outrageous thing.
Hasn't this been settled by courts already?
It most certainly has, yes. And we're very confident that it will be again.
Well, how has it been settled? What's been the decisions?
Well, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled many years ago, it's really a classic constitutional principle, that students do not have to say the Pledge of Allegiance if it is inconsistent with their personal beliefs, and that both symbolic and actual uttered speech cannot be coerced by the school, and that students can use their First Amendment rights in any way they choose as long as it doesn't interfere with school.
And that was 55 years ago in 1943.
1943 they settled it.
Yep.
Yeah, because I haven't heard of a case like this in a long time, and I have a memory that, the courts said what you just said, and that was it. And,
this is a very unusual case.
Well, what have either of you talked with the Fallbrook officials?
Yes.
What's their attitude here?
Oh, I'm sorry. I have a.
I know what their position is, but how are they expressing themselves?
Right now, they haven't contacted me directly yet.
You've never spoken to any officials?
I'm sorry. On April 1st, the day that this happened, I got a call from Mary Keith's teacher explaining what had happened in the classroom. I made a call to the principal's office asking for a meeting with the principal so that I could discuss what the school policy was, because I didn't know at that time. I never received a call back from the principal's office that day, so I went to the district office myself, and I retrieved a copy of the board policy governing ceremonies and observances. And I'll read that to you. The district respects the legal right of individuals not to participate in the salute to the flag for personal reasons. My daughter presented this to...
so their own policy allows her to sit it out, huh?
Yes, and so my daughter presented this to her teacher the following day, April 2nd, and for a period of about a month, she sat quietly in her seat while the other students recited the pledge. There was no classroom disturbance. Nothing else was ever said about it. Then about a month later, I received a notice in the mail that my daughter had been assigned Saturday school, which is essentially 4 hours of detention on a Saturday for her behavior in the classroom on April 1st.
I see.
So at that time, my daughter wrote a letter of appeal to the assistant principal, Mrs. Charla Rail, stating that she didn't feel she should be punished for exercising her First Amendment rights. We set up a meeting. My father, Mary Keith's grandfather, Mary Keith, the teacher, and the assistant principal met at the school on May 6th. Yeah. And the assistant principal said, no, she must stand and she will be punished. We appealed that decision to the school principal that afternoon, the afternoon of May 6th. He said he would take it under advisement and then he would let us know.
I see. So and then you ended up with the compromise here.
Well, no, actually, because I want to make this clear that we tried to settle this with the school. We didn't, because people are getting the impression that the school knew nothing about this, the superintendent knew nothing about this.
You're not asking for any money.
No, we're not asking for any money. And then Mr. Mendoza wrote me a letter dated May 7th, and that letter was copied to the superintendent, Tom Anthony, in which he states, he orders my daughter to stand or face further punishment, and he said until he received a legal opinion to the contrary, he would interpret the board policy to mean that my daughter would at least stand. So, all
right. Ann, thanks very much for coming on, and Dale Kelly Bankhead from the ACLU, thanks for coming on as well.
Sure enough.
Thanks for telling your story.
Okay, thanks.
All right, bye-bye.
A girl doesn't want to... I like that part about she given up on the country, doesn't believe in God, just all happened.
Well, I got a lot to say on this when we come back. Right. I'm with this.
We'll take some calls.
And we'll talk to you as well. This is the John and Ken Show.
Did you ever have a car in your living room? Well, at Ralph Collins.
Hi, this is John and Ken.
And the number to call if you want to speak, 1-888-JOHN-KEN. That's 1-888-564-6536.
Here on the new Talk Radio 1230 FYI. The John and Ken Show.
It's funny to sound like John again.
That's the John again show.
Some days it seems that way. This is John again.
This is John again.
Yeah, the girl that doesn't want to recite the Pledge of Allegiance, and at her school in Fallbrook, California, they first told her that she could sit quietly during the pledge, and that was kind of okay with her. But now they're saying the next school year, you're going to have to go out in the hallway, or you're going to have to stand and be quiet.
We had the mom on and somebody from the ACLU, and they filed a lawsuit. Here's what I don't understand, and I know there's a certain predictable reaction from certain quarters. Is you got a country, right? We understand what America stands for. What is it about America, American Constitution, the history of America, the Declaration of Independence, where you feel you've got the right to tell someone, and I don't care that she's only 16, tell anybody to stand up and say the words you want to hear. Now, the public school is an arm of the government. A teacher, a principal, they're employees of the government. What right? Show me what right they have to make somebody say something, to make somebody stand, when the girl doesn't believe in the words. And I think she's got a point. She's smarter than 99% of the other dope heads who were in high school.
Yeah, she paid attention to that OJ trial. She knows there isn't justice for all.
Isn't
that one of the lines?
Yes.
Let's see you try to recite the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There is no such thing as justice for all. That is one of those phony platitudes that they cram into your brain.
It's a utopian concept.
Yeah, so it doesn't exist.
It's a goal, John.
It's stupid.
It's kind of a goal.
It's stupid. She doesn't currently believe in God? Well, you're allowed that too.
Well,
there's nothing that forces you to believe in God either.
That's an old issue. In the public schools, there's nobody that has to be told, I believe in God, because of our freedom of religion. And a freedom to not have a religion.
She doesn't think it's a nation under God.
Freedom to be an atheist.
Well, she doesn't think it's a nation under God because she doesn't believe in God. It's a nation under nobody, according to her. She's got the right to that belief.
Well, she's been listening to too much talk radio. She's always given up God, and she's already given up on the country in just a few months' time.
Been listening to our show.
I like that. The mother said she'd been watching the high-profile cases.
Well, yeah.
Probably the nanny, OJ.
Yes, exactly. Most of the high-profile cases in this decade.
The Menendez brothers, who should be dead.
Yeah, she's right on that. So, and furthermore, even if she was wrong, and even if she's wrong about God, she's entitled to the opinion. Nobody can force her to speak. Nobody can force her to stand. There's no reason she'd be punished.
Well, here's the deal. I think the problem is, they're not going to force her to speak, but they want her to stand. They're afraid they'd let her sit there in the classroom. It's going to be one of those things. If she can do it, then I want to do it.
Well, so what?
Let them
all sit.
Sitting.
Why do we have
the pledge is a waste of time?
The pledge is a waste of time. I got nothing out of the pledge.
It's a symbolic affirmation of your country.
For God's sakes, for 12 years, 180 days out of the year, I stood there listening to this dopey pledge. What's the math on that? 180 times 12, huh?
Yeah, we did it only in grade school, not in high school.
Thousands of times, like a dork, I stood there listening to this stupid little poem full of platitudes and crap and nonsense, all the stuff they teach you in school that when you grow up, you find is wrong, that it's a bunch of lies.
God, you become so
It's a bunch of propaganda.
Don't your eyes miss during the Star-Spangled Banner anymore?
No! I've never understood...
Even when Whitney Houston sang it at the Super Bowl?
You think I watched?
During the Persian Gulf War?
You think I watched that?
But they replayed it a billion times. It was an MTV video, I believe.
I've never heard it.
Have you never heard the version?
No.
Huh.
No, I had no idea.
Whether she lip-synced it or not. It was
blew right by me.
You are unreachable.
I know. Isn't it great? You don't watch television. Imagine all the things you miss out on, all the things you don't know.
But, I mean, patriotic-wise, you are unreachable. There's nothing. But then again, that's consistent with your philosophy that I'm kind of my own country.
I am. I'm my own land here.
I only care about my wife, my children, and some people in my family otherwise get away from me.
Yeah, I'm forced to pretend.
All right, we're going to take your calls when we come back. I'm sure you fired some people up.
This is the John and Ken Show. I'm Chris Whitting.
The news. Talk Radio 1230 FYI.
This is the John and Ken Show. 55 years after the Supreme Court settled this question, there's a...
Is that right? 55 years ago?
1943, they said.
In the Pledge of Allegiance?
A high school in California, Fallbrook High, is giving Mary Kate Durkee a hard time because she won't stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance.
So they said, well, you don't have to say it, but you got to stand out in the hallway. That's not acceptable to her mother or her ACLU representative.
So they're going
that makes
for it.
people happy. The ACLU's in on this one.
And I really dislike intensely all the nonsense, the patriotic nonsense that they feed you when you're young, because the stuff is just not true.
Why are they doing this if they can't? If it's been settled for 55 years, don't they have a lawyer who can tell them that you're not on any ground here?
You would think, but people who run school districts, there's so many boneheads out there.
Or maybe they figure you don't know, and you'll just collapse and say, all right.
You know what I heard the other day? Kid got thrown out of school for passing a lemon drop to his friend. A lemon drop.
That's serious business.
Let's see here. Let's go to David. You're on the John and Ken Show.
Yes, guys. How you doing?
We're fine.
Well, I must say that this is a pretty outrageous and very, unfortunately, sign of the time of this country at this point. Now, compelling to do something, I understand in regards that, in a free country, we're not supposed to be compelled. However, this girl is a teenager. She is under the authority of the school system. Her parents, which really is the reason why I see a lot of problems, is not instilling the thoughts to her that, yes, dear, you may not understand or maybe agree with some of the injustices here, but this has been an institution that millions of Americans have died since the Revolutionary War. It is a very patriotic. You may not agree with some of the current injustices being done, but at least in this country, she could start studying to be a lawyer and work on those cases that she feels that may be an injustice.
Why do you want to require her to say something she doesn't believe in a country that's supposed to be free?
Hey, I don't believe in stopping at a particular red light because I think I'd get better time if I go right through it.
Wait a second.
You're harming someone else potentially.
Yeah, first of all, that's a law.
Right.
And second of all, you could run over and kill somebody.
Right.
If she chooses to sit down and not recite the stupid Pledge of Allegiance, she's not harming anybody. And why should she repeat PAP? That's untrue.
It is not untrue.
Oh, there's no justice for all. Come on.
Still stands. We are still a constitutional government, and millions of Americans have died. Their blood has spilled over continents in the world.
So what?
Those same words that she refuses to say. But if she really wants to change it, then she should get into the.
You said that. You said that twice, David. You haven't come up with this. You don't seem to want to allow for freedom of thought here. She doesn't have to believe in it. It may not be true, but I want her to say the stupid poem anyway, just because.
I know your side. The other guy has a more intellectual view, but I must say...
What other guy?
That she is not an adult. She is under an authority figure, and this is the way it is.
No. Authority figures cannot compel you to speak, David. Check the Constitution. You're babbling all this patriotic nonsense, all these platitudes and cliches. No. There is nothing that says a 16-year-old has to speak what the authority figure programs her to speak. There's no such thing.
That particular Pledge of Allegiance has been said in this country since the schools have been started. And people are proud to say it, regardless of
tradition doesn't matter.
Get out of here.
Well, let me make this clear as the other guy. I agree with John. But let me say that, and it's funny because no matter what you believe that we should represent as a country, and that caller has a very patriotic core to him, I can hear it. Reminds me of the flag burning issues when you talk about it.
Yeah, that's another one.
No matter what court you put this in front of, I don't care how conservative it is, Supreme Court, local courts, they have to come down the same way, and that's the way John and I believe, that individual rights are the ultimate core of this country, and if you cannot be compelled to say something like the Pledge of Allegiance. It's that simple. Even though I'll bet you some of these justices grind their teeth but they know what this country really is about. You can't make people do stuff like that. You just can't.
How can this guy?
And I don't care how much it bothers your patriotic core, like the last caller. It's too bad.
How can this guy prattle on about the people who died for freedom, and then he doesn't want to give the girl the freedom? The people who died for a certain kind of freedom?
That's right. They died for a freedom. As strange as it is to say, they died for the freedom for a girl to choose, not to believe in God, and not to recite the pledge.
Tony, you're on the John and Ken Show.
Okay, first of all, I don't think anybody's going to argue with you when you say that this country is far from perfect. I think we'd all agree with that. Secondly, I don't think the 55-year-old Supreme Court ruling had anything to do with what the school might do. I think it said that that a student or whoever wouldn't have to recite the pledge, but I don't think it said the school would be forced to let the girl sit there. If they want to make her stand outside, I think that's probably their right to do that.
Well, wait a minute. How can you force somebody to stand outside because they won't speak what you want them to speak?
That's punishment.
Well, like I said, I'm sure that she has her right to not say it, and I don't think the school is trying to force
her. She doesn't have a right to sit in the seat. She has to be forced to stand.
Well, if you
outside the classroom, where would that be? Why do you think that would be in the Supreme Court decision?
Why? What do I think? Which now?
Why do you think it would be in the Supreme Court decision
to force her to stand outside?
It wasn't. I think the issue in the Supreme Court decision was that she doesn't have to say it, and that's fine. My point is, and you also in this country have a right to be very ignorant, and at 16 years old living in Fallbrook, by definition, you're ignorant. You don't know other than what you see on the boob tube. I don't think this girl has been...
So do you think wait a second, do you think there's justice for all in this country?
I think there's justice for most, and my point
is... that's not what they say.
Justice for the rich.
Let me just say that nobody would argue with that this country's not perfect, but I think if she's going to take such a stand, she ought to give us the example of a country that we should follow.
Wait, why do we have to? No, see, that's what I don't understand. She doesn't have to provide anything. Even if she's the stupidest, dumbest girl in history, if she doesn't want to say the stupid poem, she doesn't have to say it.
That's right.
Period.
My point is, if she's going to cry about having to go stand outside, and then we're going to compare this girl to a young man who stood in front of a tank in Red China because he wanted the right to say what.
Who compared the two?
You don't, well, see, that's the point. There are millions of kids around the world her age that would be shot for taking a stand that she took. So if this country is
Exactly the point.
That's right. So, she needs to understand. I don't think she has a clue that, she's looking at the O.J. trial as an example of how horrible this country is. I wonder if she has any idea that 2,000 Chinese kids were gunned down in Tiananmen Square because they wanted...
Why should that compel her to stand?
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying...
Why are you using that argument? You're coming up with reasons why she should stand.
No, my argument is clearly this girl, and her opinion is based in ignorance because she doesn't know what the rest of the world...
And what if she... Wait a second. And what if she does know? I certainly know about all the things you said.
Old,
hold on a second. Hold on. Would you listen? Stop with your speech already. I'm 36. I don't want to say the Pledge of Allegiance either, and I know about all the things you're talking about.
Have you been anywhere else?
Sure I have. I've been to Europe. I've been to Israel.
Okay.
I've been to a few places, not a whole lot. I've never been to China. I've never been to Russia. And if someday I get there, it's still not going to change my mind. I still don't want to say the Pledge of Allegiance.
That's fine.
Because it's a mindless piece of pap is all it is.
Well, like I said, the girl has a right to not say it, and we have a right to know that she's doing so in sheer ignorance of how good she's got it in this country compared to anyone else.
You assume she's ignorant. You really think that an educated person can't have a good reason not to salute the flag?
When you've been to 39 countries and 7 continents and you've seen how other people live and how badly they want to come here and what they're willing to do to get here, it's certainly ignorant to think that this country doesn't deserve some respect.
All right, Tony, thank you for the call.
So what if we're better off than a lot of other countries? She still has a right to say things can be better. Nothing wrong with that.
There's countries that may have better justice systems here. She may be right. There may not be a God. Nobody knows if there's a God or not for sure. She's uncomfortable saying one nation under God.
What's the problem with just letting her sit there? What's the big deal?
I don't know. What's the big deal?
I guess they are afraid that she's going to have imitators and everything's going to fall apart. The whole school just crumbles.
Let's go to
Mary Kate doesn't want to do it. I don't want to do it. You know that kid thing?
The way he was harping on this ignorance, she may not be ignorant at all. You can certainly have all the knowledge that he listed there and still not want to stand there pledging your allegiance. John, you're on the John and Ken Show.
Yeah, I'm another one of those boneheads, I guess. You guys, you've gone off your rocker a little too much. This is, like you said, there's nothing terrible. You don't believe in God, fine. But you can show a little respect by standing up. Are either of you veterans?
No.
I'm in the same age group as you guys. However, I came from a very poor family, and I joined the military so I could go to college. And this is one of the few countries where I could come 8th of 9 children. My parents had nothing, and I'm a doctor because I took the responsibility upon myself, and that's what's wrong with this country, I think. I don't think you got to believe in God. You don't have to do this. You don't have to do that. She may not be ignorant, but there is something called respect, and I think that's where we're getting away from in this country.
Respect for what, though? Respect for a flag?
Respect.
For a piece of cloth?
Yeah.
Why?
What's wrong with that?
Well, this is wrong. But why should she be compelled? If you want to do that,
she doesn't
fine.
have to be compelled, but why can't she stand?
She doesn't want
quietly.
to. She doesn't believe in what it symbolizes.
I think doing things like paying your taxes and obeying laws shows more respect than staring at a piece of cloth.
Well, I agree with you, but you know what? I think what is wrong with showing a little respect? You know, we don't have anything that we show respect to anymore. So what is wrong with
nothing?
Especially when you're a formative.
Why don't you show? Wait a second. You know, there's tons of people who don't pay taxes, and that's considered a good thing. You know,
there's no comparison.
No. But the taxes is what keeps the country running. You have a political party that has run for years on trashing the government, on how everything connected with government is horrible.
Well,
but they want you to respect the piece of cloth that represents the government.
It's not.
That represents the country.
You know,
sure, it is a piece of cloth.
It is not.
It's a piece of cloth dyed certain colors in a certain pattern.
Well, you're right.
It's supposed to represent something. It's supposed to represent an ideal.
If you are that superficial and that's all you see is a piece of cloth, fine. But it's the symbolism behind what that stands for that makes some difference. Now, is that ignorant? Am I totally stupid for thinking that way? No. Do I care if the girl thinks otherwise? No, but I think she can stand up and just show respect.
And if she chooses not to? And if she chooses not to?
You know what?
And what if she chooses not to?
You're sending a message of it's important that she show respect, but also that she conform. I say it's more important to show that individuals have rights in this country and they can choose not to participate.
What the hell is wrong with conformity? You know,
there's a lot wrong with conformity.
There's a lot wrong with conformity.
That absolutely constricts freedom of thinking, creativity.
Hey, Nazi Germany, that was conformity.
If I had conformed to what my parents' ideal of what I should be, I'd be working in a factory. I didn't conform. You know, that's just BS. Conformity. That you guys just.
Now you're arguing both sides of the set. All right, thanks. It's arguing for conformity and against conformity. All right, we got to take a break. This is the John and Ken Show.
There are 206 bones in the human body. That's a lot of bones to beat.
1230FYI.com. The new Talk Radio 1230 FYI.
Refuses to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Refuses even to stand. And come next September, if she continues that way, they're going to force her out of class.
She's filing a lawsuit involved now.
And we're listening to people who feel that it's right for a school to force someone to say things that she doesn't want to say and that she doesn't believe in, and force her to stand and face a flag when she doesn't want to stand.
Hey, you know, I'm kind of live and let live. Let her do what she wants. I wouldn't choose the same thing she's doing, but don't you find it just a little bit ironic and maybe hypocritical, too, that she's more than willing to take the rights that our country offers her, yet she's not even willing to stand up and make at least a showing of thanks to that same flag and what it stands for?
So who determines what people have to do to give back? You do?
Oh, no. I mean, she doesn't have to give anything back. That's the neat thing about our country is it so freely gives that liberty. But I just find it really ironic.
You know, this is what irritates me, the idea that the country gives us liberty. We have liberty on our own. Our country doesn't give it to us. Countries can take it. Wait a second. No. A country can take it away, but no country can give you freedom. You naturally have freedom by being born. As a human being, this is what makes me nuts. Nobody gives me freedom. I have it. And then somebody can take it away from me.
So our country doesn't take it away. And her thanks is to thumb her nose at it.
Well, I don't, you know something? I don't understand. Why do we have to show so much gratitude for something that belongs to us to begin with?
We don't.
What I have to flag and say, thank you for not oppressing me? Thank you to who exactly?
No, you
Wait
don't
a second.
have
Who am
to do that.
Who am I thanking? The flag? Oh, am I thanking any people? Am I thanking a body of government? Who am I thanking for the chance for the freedom to be left alone to do what I want to do?
Thanking is probably the wrong word. Just gosh, I don't know what the right word would be, but it's just honoring.
There is no word. No, you don't understand. Honor what?
Oh, hush. It's
no, don't tell me
the
that.
principles that we stand for.
I think what you're reaching for is like we're trying to recognize how good we've got it.
We're trying to say, hey, go us. Look at what we stand for.
Yeah.
Look at the freedom we have in our country.
our great country that allows us to have this freedom.
The words make me crazy, Denise. Thank you for the call.
John, you see, is not a group guy. He's not a
group guy,
and he's not a cheerleading guy, and he's not a aren't we great guy.
I have no gratitude for being here. I have no. I'm not one of these people. Isn't it wonderful?
Would you like to be back in Poland? Would you?
You're assuming that people in other countries.
You think you'd be doing Warsaw Talk Radio?
You're assuming people in other countries are miserable. Most people in other countries are no less happy or more happy than we are.
Yeah. Well, yeah, everything is relative. Because, if you look at how great we've got it, you think we do. In other countries, they don't realize they do. It's all relative. They think that they're fine.
There's different levels of freedom, but there are many countries that most of the population is very happy with whatever freedoms they have. Maybe they don't desire necessarily. Some people look at America and find our country to be ridiculous. Of course, there's many people who want to come here, but there's a lot of people who don't.
Oh, and they do what all of you guys do, listening right now with talk radio, especially. A lot of countries generalize about the U.S. They hear the stories of O.J. being free or people getting shot and think we're a violent culture, we're a nutty culture with a lack of justice. Yeah, John's right. Don't think that the other countries are just squirming.
Well, everybody always says, well, you know how many people want to get in here? You know how many people don't? There's more people who are happy where they are than unhappy.
Don't get me wrong, I'd rather be here, but after being in some other countries, not too many, I'd still rather be here.
Yeah, so would I.
Well, I had a good time in England.
But this idea that somebody presents me freedom, the idea that somebody allows me to be free is crap. There's no flag that allows me to be free. I'm entitled to freedom simply because I exist.
Yeah, wasn't for those Revolutionary War guys, you'd still be under British rule, buddy.
People in England, I was there. Everybody looked happy there. If this was England, we'd be all right.
A little gray-faced, but happy.
A little pasty. This is the John and Ken Show.